This is Trevor from Patrick Adair Supplies, and today we are going over the November sub box with the Vulcan Ring. Alright, let's get to it. Alright, let's see what we've got in this month's sub box. So we've got goodies in here. We have our Damascus ring blank, and this week our freebie is the reverse grip tweezers. These are super useful. And inside this box, we've got our Blackfire Opal. You can see it really shines off of that light. You get lots of greens and reds. We also have our green glow pigment and our obsidian pigment. And you only really need to add a little bit of it because it is very overpowering towards the glow powder. So to start off, we're going to be mixing our obsidian pigment with our green glow. I usually do a couple of scoops of the pigment and fill up the glow the rest of the way, but you're really just trying to get a color that you're happy with. So depending on if you want more color or more glow is ultimately up to you. For this specific ring, I tried for a black, but with a really strong green glow. Then I wanted to just crush up our Blackfire Opal a bit smaller so that when we put it in the inlay channel, we get more of that colorful reflection that opal gives out to really show off the ring. Now that that is all taken care of, we're ready to get working on the ring. I always put electrical tape on the mandrel, whether it's to be a buffer for fragile blanks like ceramic, or just to make it easier if we accidentally get glue on the bottom of the ring and get it stuck to the mandrel. If we use electrical tape, it's a lot easier to get that off and get a fresh start. So once we get that Damascus ring mounted, we are ready to add some of the medium CA adhesive that we have to that inlay channel. So all I want to do for this is fill that channel with medium CA, not enough for it to be like dripping out, but enough that it can hold these pieces of opal in place as I rotate the ring around the lathe. After I get the opal on there, I'm just taking some time to make sure all that opal is in the inlay channel, and I want to just make sure that there's no big holes or voids. Just do a quick once over to make sure all the opal is where it needs to be. And once I'm happy with that opal placement, I'm going to just fill those empty spots that the opal isn't in with our obsidian glow mixture. So I'm just doing a layer over the top of it to saturate all that leftover medium CA, and I just want to do one layer of it. I don't want to fill it full to the top of that channel so that we can give it some more of that depth to the ring. If you fill it all the way to the top, it'll still look nice, but I don't think you'll get the depth that we're really looking for. It's a lot easier to see those reflections from the opal if you leave that depth in there. So after that pigment has been applied, I just wanted to do one layer of the super thin to wet it all, and then a quick spritz of our accelerator to freeze everything in place. And after I do that, I just put a couple drops of super thin on top and let it cure, and then slowly build up the rest of the channel so that it is full of our CA and there are no gaps left behind for when we start tremoling. When it is all built up, I do want to leave it alone for just a minute to get that CA all cured so that when we're dremeling, no pieces will fly out from uncured glue. but Alright, so once the ring has cured long enough for that CA to be solid, it is time to start dremeling. Luckily with this ring, we're not dealing with a very hard material, it's just the opal, so it's fairly easy to get that inlay channel flush with the rest of the ring. However, Damascus is a pretty soft material, so I want to try and get everything nice and even to make that sanding later easy on us. I tend to get rid of the first layer of the etching on the Damascus rings so that we don't have to worry about CA getting stuck in the crevices and messing up the acid bath we have to do at the end of the process. So as we get that all flush, I just do a quick check to make sure there's no divots or anything wrong that I need to fill. And before I go forward with any more CA, I do like to do a quick wet sand with 220 just to even everything out and get it all uniform. After I dry it off, I go through and check for any voids that may have been left behind. Sometimes opals land on top of each other, and when you Dremel it out, it reveals a void that was underneath. So I just want to go through and pick all of those out, save some headache for later on. And it's always just a good idea to go through to, try and make the process a little easier on yourself. But after I do find all those voids, and I'm confident that they're gone, I just fill them all with some more of that pigment, and once it gets in all of the holes, I just kind of like to spread it along the top there so it will fall in everywhere. And then I just do a layer of super thin on top of that to really seal it all in place. And then after I apply that, I just use a little bit of accelerator to get that cured and wait for that to set up. It shouldn't take very long. The accelerator does speed it up, and you need to be careful with the accelerator not to use too much, or it can create some weird white artifacts on the channel of the ring. Less is really more with accelerator. So now that we have that cured, we're just going to start wet sanding. I always start out by wet sanding with 220 until I get that inlay channel flush with the rest of the ring. I'm just trying to get rid of that outer layer of glue so that all of the inlay channel is flush. There's no glue sitting on the sides of the ring. And once I've determined that it is all flush and uniform, I will switch off to a 500 grit sandpaper. And this process just continues on until I go up to a 1200 grit. I will just go through with 500 till that sandpaper is used up, and then I'll go in with 1000 and use it until I think that has been adequate. Usually just go through on each side of that sandpaper piece that I tear off. And then with the 1200, we're just really making it shine. And normally this would be a finished ring, but since we are using Damascus, you can see here that that etching design is not there on the outside of the ring, so we need to dip it in an acid bath. So right now I'm just wrapping the ring to prep it for that acid bath. You don't really need it for this ring. It's more for different materials that are affected by the acid, but this opal is pretty hardy. So for the acid bath, we are just putting in a little bit of muriatic acid and 15 drops of hydrogen peroxide, and we let it sit for 15 minutes. And then after that, you need to neutralize that acid in a mixture of baking soda and water. And then you have your finished ring. All right, this is our finished ring. I'm really happy with how it turned out. It is, like we said earlier, the Vulcan ring, patterned after the god of fire. He also was a god of forging, and I feel like the lore behind that really fits in well with this ring. I'm really happy with how the black fire opal really shines with multiple colors in the light, and the Damascus really just sends it home for that god of fire look we were going for. Alright, thanks guys for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you on the next sub box.